Hey everybody, Rachel here from Rachthestamper.com, and I wanted to show you this really adorable card that I just created. This uses the Happy Birthday Piggy stamp set, and you'll notice there are some different pieces here. There is also a limited time availability coordinating die, the Playful Piggies die. So these are the dies that coordinate with this stamp set. There's also one for the Yeti. There's a couple different ones. They are available now, I believe, through, I don't know if it's September 30th or October 31st. I do need to double check on that. But anyway, these are really fun because there's lots of also additional things. There's a nice little grass die that you can use. There are a lot of little things that go with the piggy. You can have a handkerchief. You can pop out wheels if you want, or make the handle 3D. So there is a die for each of the piggies, 1, 2, 3. And then there's also this really cute die cut that I'm actually going to use because I busted this one up earlier. I stamped it incorrectly. And this actually will work really well. So I'm going to use this one too. We're also going to be using the wagon, but instead we're going to make it kind of into a pigsty. Now I want to tell you one thing I did ahead of time, because this card, what I did is I die cut the piggy. I did a little bit of blending in the background, and then I cut out the wagon and then just trimmed off the wheels and the handle. But instead, I want another way that you could do this card, maybe a little bit simpler if you're busy. So to save time, I did die cut this piggy die. I did this with masking paper. So I'm going to show you the difference in what we're going to do today. So let me just move these over. So I already have my little masking piece cut. We're going to make it the same though. This is Sahara Sand 4 1/4 by 11, scored at 5 1/2. Balmy Blue 4 by 5 1/4, and Thick Whisper White, Thick Basic White, whatever it's called these days, I keep forgetting, which is 5 by 3 3/4. So we're going to start with this, and then I have a couple of scraps. I have a scrap for my sentiment, and I have a scrap hopefully that will fit my wagon. So I'm going to show you what we're going to do first. So first we're going to start out by stamping the piggy. Now, I'm going to use something I haven't used in a while. I'm going to be using watercolor pencils, and I have a couple different things that I can show you how to use them as well. So you want to use something that you can use with that. So I'm going to be using Memento black ink. You could also use StazOn if you wanted to. The way I'm doing it today is with blender pens, but there's a couple different ways you want to do it. So if you really wanted to get into watercoloring, you definitely want to use StazOn, but I'm going to stick with Memento. So I'm just inking up my piggy, and I'm kind of going to just stamp him in the center. Just like so, approximately. I probably could have gone a little bit higher with having this. You know what? I'm going to flip 2 sides to every piece of paper. I'm going to stamp him up just a little bit higher. Okay. And just trying to make sure that kind of lines up. We'll go like about there. That looks good. All right, one thing I want to mention to you though, because I used my trimmer a lot, and I have these little edges here because my trimmer blade needs to be switched. So I'm going to take my bone folder and I'm just going to go over the edges, and what it actually does is it flattens them back out. So if you ever notice that issue, that's what you can do. Now I do have a little black smudge there, but we're just going to have to live with that. Now I'm going to take the backing, and hopefully I cut this the correct direction. Now I'm second guessing myself. No, I did. You're going to remove the backing. So this is the backing. This is the sticky part. And we're just going to do our best to line this up over our pig. Looks pretty good. You can actually see him underneath of it. And we're just going to give it a nice press so we don't pull up any edges when we're doing what we're going to do. Now, the black ink wasn't 100% dry, so there is a chance that it might lift it up. There'll be a little bit of black that'll be on the back of the sticker, but that's okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to start blending. And I did start with the Sahara Sand first. So I'm going to open the Sahara Sand. I have a blending brush. This still has some ink on it, so I'm going to see what it looks like before I go crazy. So I'm going to just start off and just blend. I did do a different version on the back of this, and it was way too dark, so I actually flipped it over and started again. So we're just adding a little bit of mud. Okay, maybe just a little bit down here. That's good. I don't want to go too low because I want my sentiment to be white. Even though I botched it up, I still want it to kind of be white. So Sahara Sand. Then we're going to use Tahitian Tide. Same thing. Have a blue blender pen. I'm just going to flip this around. It's easier for me to do it this hand because I'm right-handed. Just ink this up. And you'll notice when I do this, I'm very, very light with this because it almost gives the illusion, if you can see that, I don't know if you can, of clouds. So I try to be really, really light whenever I do a sky because it almost kind of works to your advantage. It doesn't really necessarily fill in the whole thing. And it kind of gives you those bits that look like it could be puffy clouds. Now, the other thing that I do sometimes when I ink this up is I'll pounce just to give a little bit of difference. So that's up to you. You can, or you can skip it, your choice. So while I'm giving this a second to dry, I'm going to just pull out my little scrap and I'm going to stamp my sentiment. I did go to your happy place and stay there all day. Got a little bit of a smudge there. So I'm going to just use this Starry Sky. And I think I got a little goopy again. Ink it up. Nope, good enough. We will do that. And one more thing I'm going to do, and I should have done this ahead of time last time, but I didn't. So I'm going to show you. I'm going to take my Sahara sand. I still think I probably have enough ink. And I'm just going to kind of, no, I need some more. This is crumb cake. I'm going to just add a little bit of ink to this. You can do it either way, and I'll show you what I mean when I say that. So I'm going to leave this because I might do a little extra. So I'm going to line this up. I don't really care about the handle or the wheels. I just want to make sure I have the cart. So I'm going to line that up. And I just want it to stay over the inked area. So I'm just going to put a little piece of washi. Like so. And then I'm going to line up my sentiment. And same thing, I'm going to just die cut both of these. All right, so what I was saying earlier about the whole, I wanted to show you what I did, is when you die cut the wagon, it actually embosses it as well. So let me show you what I mean. So it's got these little bits, kind of like a wood grain raised, if you can see that there. So what you can do is you can even go back with your brush and just kind of add a little bit extra to the top. And then all I'm going to do is take my paper snips and just trim and trim. And one more trim. Okay, so I have my sentiment, I have my pigsty. The only thing we're going to need to do differently with this pigsty, I actually adhered it to the die cut pig. With this one, we'll just have to glue it down. So now I am very carefully, you can use whatever you would like, I'm very carefully going to pull off my mask. Okay, now sometimes with a mask, you will have a little bit of a halo around, and we can fix that afterwards, so don't fret. I'm going to stick my mask on the back here, just because I can reuse it. Then what we're going to do is start the magic part. So I'm going to grab Early Espresso and Cajun Craze, and I'm just going to, and this is why I say we can fix this in the background. I'm very sloppy. You can see I'm not doing anything detailed at all. So Cajun Craze. Bring in some espresso in a couple spots underneath. Okay. I did blue flowers last time. This is cherry cobbler. That might be a little bit dark. I'm gonna do flirty flamingo. So just a little bit of flamingo in the flower petals. This is literally how I colored the last card as well. So don't feel like you're gonna get anything crazy. A little bit of yellow in the center. This is probably the most particular you have to be at the center because it's so small it doesn't really blend all that well. I'm going to take my Bermuda Bay and just go a little bit in a couple spots. You'll see why for that part in a second. I know we have some brown down here, so you don't have to worry about that too much. And then for the piggy, so I kind of did a little bit different. I have some Melon Mambo. Kind of down here at the belly. I always do the tail because it's more fun. A little bit on the back. A little bit of flirty flamingo, kind of in a couple patchy areas. Make sure you get the hoof. If you want your nose to be really pink, depending on what you want. You can even put in a little bit of rich razzleberry. Oh, you know what I forgot? My leaves. So garden green, a little bit of garden green for the grass. All right, now here's where the magic happens. So you can use a blender pen. This is super duper old. This is a Prismacolor blender pen, so you can use this. The sharper it is, and you want to make sure that you clean it off every single time, but it does blend ink pretty easily. This is really cool. This is not a Stampin' Up! Product, but I've had this for a really long time. You could also, if you wanted to, you want to be a little bit more careful with this if you're going to do it, you could use a watercolor pen with water in it or alcohol. And you can even, where is it? I had it here a second ago. Let's see. Use this. You could even use a Wink of Stella brush because all you're doing is basically wetting this ink. Okay. So I'm going to make sure my pencil is clean. And I'm going to do the brown first just because it really makes it kind of disappear into the base here. And I'm just mixing the two colors together, going all the way up. This brush is really fine, so it's really, really great for getting into these little bottom pieces that you need to do. You can kind of go around, get rid of any white right around here. I'm going to wipe it off, and I'm going to go into my green just a smidge. Kind of blending the green and the brown. Okay. Now I'm going to do my petals, pink petals. I'm not really going to fool with the yellow too much. Now I'm going to do my Bermuda. So it's going to be a little bit lighter as you wet it. You don't want to really press super hard. You kind of want to be a little bit gentle with this. Because the more you work this, I will tell you one thing, it can sometimes make your paper pill. So you really want to underwork it. You can always add in more color, and I'll show you what I mean in a minute. But you really just want to lightly ink in your background. Okay, just wipe that off. All right, now we're going to work on our pig. So you're going to just do the same thing. So just kind of wet it slightly and just gently blend it out. Doesn't need to be perfect. As I said, you can add in some other color if you feel like you want to. Your pig doesn't even really necessarily need to be pink. And there actually is even another way to do this if you wanted to. Now, one thing, I was a little bit more willy-nilly than I was on my first card with the pink. So I'm actually going to just bring this in. And I'm going to just add a little bit of general overshading. So you will see that when you do this, you get practice. It kind of helps you to figure out what you want to do color-wise. Clean that off. And I'm just going to blend this just a smidge. Now, so for saying this is a little bit dark, because this pig, I did color him a little muddled. I got a little carried away. So I'm going to take my wet end, and you can also just ink up off of your watercolor pencil if you wanted to add a little bit darker spot. You could do that. You can also add color by wetting your pencil and then coloring it in. So the fact that I wet this with my blender pen, it is going to be a little bit wet now, so you can actually come in and add a little bit of a darker spot. I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but it will give you a darker spot. You could also have a little bowl of water and you can dip your pen. Then you'll get a really, really deep, solid color. But I'm going to go back just a smidge, a couple areas. It's a little bit more purpley there, so I'm going to actually grab my Melon Mambo and I'm going to just go just really, really lightly. So if I'm coloring like this, so I'm just going to really lightly go over the whole thing. And the other thing you can do, I think we have gray. Yeah, you could always even add in a little bit of gray if you wanted to, just to kind of offset some of that pink. Okay. So the other thing is when you're doing this, if you're noticing that your color is just not looking the way you want, one other thing you want to do is let your paper dry, because even though this isn't really wet, it definitely does affect your paper. It is a little bit bowed, when you're looking at the other side. So just kind of let it dry, step away from it, finish something else that you're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and close this up for a minute. And the other thing I want to do just with the top color here is I'm going to grab my blender pen once more, my blender brush, I should say. I'm going to just really, really lightly redip. Okay, and I'm going to just go right over the top just to get any little white spots that might not have blended. Kind of looks like he's got a little bit of a puddle behind him and then a little bit of mud. There we go. All right, my pig does look like he's been through the ringer. He does look a little bit bruised, I will say. Also, one other thing, when this dries, it does have a different look. But also the nice part is, worst case scenario, this is only paper. If you really hate it, the other thing you could do is you could even stamp a pig and then just die cut and just pop him right in there where you want it to. But I'm going to leave him how he is because I'm confident that he's going to be fine regardless. The other thing we're going to do is we're going to add our pigsty. I'm just going to put a little bit of liquid glue. You could also use adhesive sheet if you wanted to, but liquid glue also works just fine. And we're going to put this right here. And I do want to hold this because it does have a little bit of texture to it, as I said. So I want to make sure that it stays where I put it. And then with our sentiment, if I can pick this up, I'm actually going to put this on with some dimensionals because I think it'll look way cuter that way. So I'm just going to grab a couple dimensionals. I think 3 should be good. I'm just looking at him. He's a very blue, maybe there are blue pigs or pigs that are bluish purple. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being optimistic about that. I think the only other pigs I know are the kind that are bacon, but you know, that's just me being a smarty pants. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and we're going to mount this onto our base. So we're putting thick white onto balmy blue. And then we're going to pop that all together onto Sahara Sand, which is a color I don't really use all that often. And then when I use it, I'm like, why haven't I used this more? It is definitely a strange ink color. It's very greenish tan. So it sometimes can be a little bit intimidating to work with because you're not really quite sure what color are you going for when you use it. But it always turns out looking super adorable. So I wanted to tell you one other thing, as I was saying. If you wanted to maybe jazz up your pig a little bit more, you can always also use a little bit of Wink of Stella. I'm going to just put a little bit across my pigsty here. Kind of almost looks like a little bit of dew. But you could also blend with your Wink of Stella pen. So you want to be careful. If you happen to decide you're going to add some Wink of Stella to this, it is going to blend your colors. So you really want to be careful with that. You kind of want to stick with one thing. So either you want to use Wink of Stella or use a blender pen. If you're going to use water in a water brush, you definitely want to use a thick cardstock. I will even say thick white is a little bit of a stretch because it does get fairly wet with it. But another option would be, again, you could have a little bowl of water and you could just dip in your brush, add a little bit of ink, and then blend it softly with your blender pens. So just a fun way to do this with masking. And it really gets down in there with the card, which I think is really cute. Or you could do the popped up version if you prefer. Let me know which one is your favorite in the comments. I love to hear what you have to say. I want to thank you guys so very much for watching me today. I hope you've learned a little bit of something new today with this card that we've created. If you haven't already, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. All you have to do is hit the subscribe button and then make sure you hit the bell for notifications. So when I do create a new video, you will be alerted that it is there. If you haven't already, you can also visit my online store if you'd like to get any of these supplies, which is rachthestamper.stampinup.net. And you can always head over to my blog, which gives you measurements and other card ideas as well. I would love for you to share this with a friend, give it a thumbs up, leave me a comment, give me a like, subscribe, share, any of those things. All those things are free, completely free to you to do. All you have to do is sign up for a Gmail account, which is also 100% free. Thank you guys so very much for watching me. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you again real soon.